Let's be real for a second. How many times have you hugged a man and thought that was nice, but then wondered if he felt anything deeper than just a friendly embrace? Here's the truth. Most hugs women give don't leave any lasting impression. They're warm, they're polite, they're kind, but they don't leave him lying in bed later that night replaying the moment, wishing he could feel it again. But picture this. Picture a hug that feels so electric, so personal, that it lingers in his mind long after you've walked away. Imagine him catching himself thinking, why did that hug feel different? Why do I want more of her touch? That's not just attraction, that's longing. And longing is where real chemistry lives. A hug may seem simple, but it's actually one of the strongest chances you have to show a man how you make him feel. Because touch isn't only about skin or bodies, it's about emotions. It's about sending a message without saying one single word. A hug can quietly whisper, "I feel at ease with you," or it can shout, "I want you closer." And here's where most women make mistakes. They either hug a man too casually, as if he's just a friend, or too tightly, like they're holding on for dear life. Neither creates craving. What sparks craving is a mix of softness and intention, confidence wrapped in warmth. And today, I'll show you how to turn a hug into something unforgettable. I'll give you 5 ways to use touch during a hug so he doesn't just enjoy it while it happens. He replays it again and again in his mind, and that's when he starts wanting you more. So let's break down the art of a hug that makes him desire you. When you lean in for a hug, most women don't even think about what their hands are doing. They just wrap their arms around him, squeeze, and that's it. But here's the thing, your hands are one of the most powerful tools of silent communication you have. They can transform a hug from ordinary to unforgettable. Think about it. Have you ever had someone hug you and you felt nothing? Their arms were just there, lifeless, disconnected. That kind of hug doesn't create closeness. It doesn't send any spark. But then there are hugs where someone places their hands in such an intentional way that it feels charged, magnetic, even a little sensual. And that's exactly what we want here. So how do you do it? When you first lean in, don't just throw your arms around his back. Instead, place one hand with care, either on the back of his neck, his shoulder blade, or gently resting between his shoulder and chest. Why? Because these are zones of intimacy. They're not what you do with a casual coworker or a quick greeting. They're reserved for people you share a special connection with. That's what makes it such a strong signal. A hand on the back of his neck says closeness, comfort, and yes, attraction. It feels almost primal. Men are wired to notice touch in that area. It feels protective and personal at the same time. Without speaking, your hand says, "I feel safe with you and I want you near." Now, it's not just about where your hand goes, but how you use pressure. Too light, and it feels shy or unsure. Too heavy, and it feels clingy. That middle ground, gentle yet steady, communicates confidence. It says, "I know what I'm doing. I'm relaxed in my skin, and I'm inviting you into this moment with me." And here's the secret. Men pick up on this far more than they'll ever say out loud. He may not think, "Well, the way she touched my shoulder blade makes me feel desired," but he'll feel it inside. It builds an unspoken connection between you and that sense of closeness. Think of your hands like you're speaking a private language. You don't need to say, "I like you," or "I want you to think about me later." Your hands do all of that talking. That's why where you place them matters so much. A hand on his lower back compared to a hand high on his shoulder sends totally different vibes. Lower back feels more intimate, while higher up feels warmer but safer. The beauty is, you get to decide which message you want to send. Here's a simple tip. If you want to spark instant chemistry, let your fingers spread out lightly as they rest on his back or neck instead of just pressing your palm flat. That small difference makes it feel more personal, like you're savoring the touch, not just giving it. It's such a little thing, but believe me, he notices it. Remember this, when you add intention, a hug isn't just a hug anymore. Your hands guide the whole feeling of the moment. So next time you hug him, don't let it be careless. Let your hands carry the message, because when they do, he won't just enjoy the hug, he'll crave the way you made him feel inside it. Let's be real again. Most hugs are finished before they even start. A quick squeeze, maybe a pat on the back, and then done. It's polite, it's safe, but polite and safe don't make him crave you. What makes him crave you is when your hug lingers just a little longer than normal, long enough to make him notice you in a way he can't ignore. Now, I'm not saying you should hold on like you're afraid he's leaving for months. That's not craving, that's clinging. What I'm talking about is subtle, controlled, thoughtful, just 1 or 2 seconds longer than usual. That's the magic zone. Here's why it works. When you hold him just a bit longer, you create a pause. And in that pause, something important happens. He feels you. He notices your warmth pressed against him, your scent, the way your body matches with his. That's when the hug stops being routine and starts being unforgettable. Think about it. If you only give short, polite hugs, he files them away as friendly, maybe even forgettable. But when you hold just a moment longer, he begins to wonder, why did that feel different? Why didn't she let go right away? That small shift from the ordinary makes him think of you long after the hug ends. It's in those extra seconds that attraction begins to grow. You're not only hugging him, you're giving him a moment, an experience, a silent message that says, I like being this close to you, and I'm relaxed enough to stay right here. And let me tell you something, men really enjoy that. They want it deeply. Because the truth is, most women don't give it to them. This is the quiet art of doing it right. When you move in for the hug, first match his energy. Don't rush it, don't smother him, just meet him where he is. And then, when you feel he's about to pull away, you stay just a moment longer, not by holding on tighter, not by forcing him to stay, but by letting the moment breathe on its own. That's what makes it magnetic. That's what makes it stay in his memory. And here's something interesting. Science actually proves this. Studies show that hugs lasting 20 seconds or more release oxytocin, the chemical in the brain often called the bonding hormone. Now, I'm not saying you should always hug him for a full 20 seconds. In some situations that would feel a little too much. But even a couple of extra seconds longer than what people consider polite is enough to light up those bonding feelings inside him. It's the difference between his brain putting that hug in the normal box versus locking it away as a moment to remember. Think of it like music. A short hug is like a quick note played and gone in an instant. But a longer hug is like holding that note, letting it stretch out, letting it echo. That echo is what makes it special, what makes it unforgettable. So next time you hug him, don't rush it. Don't be the first one to let go. Give the moment a little more time, a little more weight. And when you finally step back, do it in a way that feels intentional, not sudden. That's when he walks away with that quiet thought echoing in his head. Why did that feel so good? Why do I want more of that? And once he feels that, you've done something powerful. You've made him not only crave your hugs, but crave your presence. It's like a whisper that says, I want you to feel me even when I'm not around. Here's how you can do it. While you're holding him, don't just let your hands sit there. Use your fingertips gently, tracing lightly across his shoulders, down his spine, or along his arm. The key is the lightness. You don't want to give the impression you're massaging him. You want it to feel like a tease, something subtle, something soft, just enough that he feels you're there, but light enough to make his body lean in without him even realizing why. Men are actually very sensitive to touch, even though most won't admit it. That little brush of your fingertip sends a spark through his nervous system. It feels almost electric. It's your way of saying, I'm not just hugging you, I'm playing with your senses. And here's the best part, he'll replay it in his head, even if he can't figure out why it struck him so deeply. Think about the difference between a regular handshake and one where someone lets their fingers linger against yours for just a second longer. That second leaves a mark. It feels more personal. It feels more alive. The same thing happens with a hug. That fingertip touch is what takes it from something ordinary to something unforgettable. And where you place your touch matters too. If your fingertips slowly move down his back as you're pulling away, you leave behind a trail his body will remember. If you trace along his arm as you let go, it feels playful, almost like you don't really want to let him go. Both ways create a sense of intimacy without you needing to say a single word. Here's why it works. The human brain remembers contrast. If everything feels the same, nothing stands out. But the moment you add something different, like a gentle fingertip glide during a hug, you create that contrast. Suddenly, you're not just another woman giving him a polite hug. You're the woman whose touch felt different, whose presence stayed, and that is what makes him want more. Let me share a little secret move. As you're beginning to step away, let your fingers slide softly down his arm, and just before you let go completely, let them rest for a second on his hand. That small pause, that's electric. It's almost like you're saying, I'm letting go now, but a part of me is still here with you, and he won't just notice it. He'll keep thinking about it. The goal here isn't to overwhelm him. It's not to make every hug too intense or too heavy. The real goal is to plant a seed of desire in the quietest way possible. That's why the fingertips are so powerful. They don't shout attraction, they whisper it. And sometimes those whispers echo the longest. So the next time you find yourself in his arms, let your fingertips do the speaking. Because when you use them in just the right way, you won't only be a woman he hugged, you'll be the woman he can't get out of his mind. But let's also talk about something that might actually be the most important part of a hug. Not your hands, not how many seconds you hold on, but the way your whole body communicates with his. And here's the hidden secret. When you hug a man, you want to let yourself melt into him, but do it with confidence. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean clinging to him like he's the only thing holding you up. That kind of energy feels needy, and men sense it right away. What it really means is allowing yourself to relax into him, but at the same time showing through your body that you're steady, that you're strong. It's this mix of softness and strength that drives men crazy. Picture this. Two women hug the same man. The first woman clings too tightly, pressing herself against him like she can't let go. What does he feel? Pressure, responsibility, a sense of being pulled down. Now imagine the second woman. She leans in, lets her body soften against his for just a moment, but there's no desperation in her touch. Her head might rest gently on his chest. Her posture is open, her energy is calm. What does he feel now? Protective, strong, needed, desired. That's the difference. One hug makes him feel drained, the other hug makes him feel alive. Men are naturally wired to respond to that soft confidence. When you melt into him without fear, you're sending the signal, I trust you enough to let go for this moment, and that trust is incredibly intoxicating. It makes him want to draw you in tighter, to hold you closer, to be the safe place you've silently allowed him to be. But because you're not clinging, because you're carrying yourself with strength, he also feels respect for you. He knows you're strong enough to stand on your own, but that you're choosing to relax with him. That mix of strength and softness is irresistible. Think of it this way. Confidence without softness can feel cold, distant. Softness without confidence can feel needy or weak. But when you blend the two together, softness wrapped in confidence, you give him something rare. You give him the kind of hug that doesn't just touch his body, it reaches his heart. But softness with certainty, that is feminine energy at its most magnetic. That's what keeps him drawn back to you over and over. So how do you actually show this in real life? When you hug him, let your shoulders loosen up. Allow your body to lean into his. not collapsing into him, but leaning with trust. You might let your head rest lightly on his chest or his shoulder for just a moment, almost as if you're savoring how safe and close it feels. That tiny act by itself communicates a deep message. It says without words, I feel safe here. And here's something many women don't always realize. Men crave that sense of being trusted more than you think. They want to feel like you can drop your guard around them. When you melt into him with a calm, confident softness, you give him that gift. You allow him to feel like your protector without you ever needing to say the word. That feeling is powerful, and it becomes addictive to him. Now combine this softness with all the things we've already discussed: the hand placement, the slightly longer hold, the delicate touch of fingertips, and suddenly your hug becomes something he cannot forget. He'll walk away thinking, there's something different about her, the way she felt in my arms. I need that feeling again. Ladies, remember this. A hug is never just a hug. It's an exchange of energy, almost like a small dance. When you melt into him with steady confidence, you're not just offering affection, you're offering him an experience. And experiences are what men crave the most. They don't remember exactly what you wore, or even every word you said, but they do remember how you made them feel in your presence. So the next time you're wrapped in his arms, don't just give him a casual embrace. Melt into him. Not because you need him to hold you up, but because you choose to let yourself be held. That choice, that subtle difference, is everything. We've talked about how to begin a hug, how to hold it, where to rest your hands, and even how to lean in with confidence. But there's one part almost no one talks about: the ending. And believe me, how you end the hug is just as important as how you start it, because the end is what lingers. It's the last taste he gets of you before you step back, and it's what will replay in his head long after you've gone. Most people end hugs too suddenly. They step away quickly, drop their arms, and move on to the next moment in the conversation. That's fine for casual interactions, but it doesn't build any longing. If you want to be unforgettable, you must learn what I like to call the slow release. So, what exactly is the slow release? It means that when you're ready to let go, you don't just detach from him the way you would after a handshake. Instead, you let the connection fade softly. You ease away with intention, letting that closeness dissolve gently rather than snapping it off. That graceful fade is where the magic is hidden. Here's how you do it. As you start to pull back, let one of your hands slide slowly down his back or along his arm. Let your fingertips trace a light path, creating a line of sensation he can't ignore. Maybe you let your hand pause briefly on his forearm, his hand, or lightly graze across his chest before stepping back completely. That tiny last touch feels like an aftershock of intimacy. Why does this work so powerfully? Because the human mind remembers endings. Psychologists even have a name for it: the peak end rule. We tend to recall the highlight of an experience and how it finished. So if the last thing he feels is your soft, lingering touch, that is what sticks. That's what replays in his memory again and again. Think about it this way. Imagine watching a movie that's enjoyable the whole way through but ends flat. You leave the theater disappointed, right? But if the ending is stirring, emotional, and powerful, you carry that movie with you for days. The same goes for a hug. The way it ends shapes how he remembers the entire experience. Now here's the key. You don't want the release to drag on so long that it becomes uncomfortable. The slow release should feel smooth, natural, and almost effortless. It should give the impression that you're reluctant to let go, but confident enough to do so. That contrast, wanting yet not clinging, makes men restless with desire. It makes him think, did she mean that? Was that on purpose? Why do I keep replaying it in my mind? Here's a simple move that works wonders. As you let your hand glide down his arm during the release, let your fingers lightly brush against his hand before you let go completely. That little pause at the very end creates a spark that feels private and intimate, like a secret only the two of you share. And I promise you, he will not forget it. What you're really doing with the slow release is leaving a trail of longing behind. You're not handing him everything at once. You're leaving him with just enough to want more. That is the true essence of craving, because craving isn't about being satisfied in the moment. It's about anticipation. It's about him walking away thinking, I need to feel that again. So the next time you hug him, don't dismiss the ending. Don't cut it short. Let it linger. Let it fade away slowly. Allow your touch to be the very last thing he feels, so that when you're not around, he's still carrying you with him. That's how you turn a simple hug into something unforgettable, even into an obsession. Let's pull this all together. We started with the idea that not all hugs are equal. There are casual hugs, and then there are those rare hugs that leave a mark on someone's memory. The kind of hug that doesn't just feel nice for a moment, but keeps playing in his head long after. And what have we learned? It's not about how big the hug is or how tightly you squeeze. It's about the subtle details. It's about the small intentional ways you touch him that transform a basic embrace into something he will crave again. First, we talked about letting your hands speak, because where you place them communicates volumes. A hand resting on the back of his neck or his shoulder blade conveys closeness in a way words never can. Then we uncovered the power of holding just a little longer than polite. 1 or 2 seconds more than expected can make him pause and feel something deeper. That pause is where desire begins to form. Then we explored the power of fingertips, your secret tools of intimacy. A light brush of your fingers leaves a spark, a trail of sensation that keeps him thinking of you long after. That delicate spark is what separates you from every other woman he's embraced. Next, we dove into melting into him with confidence, that beautiful balance between feminine softness and calm assurance. Not clinging, not desperate, simply choosing to let yourself trust him with your presence. That is the energy that makes a man feel protective, deeply connected, and even obsessed. And finally, we discovered the slow release, the art of how you let go. That soft, intentional ending, the last lingering touch, is what he remembers long after you step away. Here's the truth. Men don't just crave beauty, charm, or attraction. They crave experiences. They crave the feelings that stand out, that seem rare, that feel different. When you master the art of the hug, you are creating that rare experience he won't be able to shake off. So the next time you're in his arms, remind yourself it's not just a hug, it's an opportunity to connect, to stir emotion, to spark chemistry. And if you do it right, he'll walk away thinking, I can't get enough of her. Now let me ask you, which of these 5 touches excites you the most to try first? Is it the thoughtful hand placement, the longer hold, the teasing fingertip touch, the confident melt, or the unforgettable slow release? Share your answer in the comments below. I love hearing which ideas you're putting into action. And if you found this video helpful, don't keep it to yourself. Tap that like button so more women can learn these secrets. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because I have so many more powerful tips to share about building deeper connections with men. Always remember, it's not the big dramatic gestures that make him crave you most. It's the small intentional touches, the details, the subtleties. That's what transforms an ordinary hug into something extraordinary. Master those little things, and you won't just be another woman in his life. You'll be the one he cannot stop thinking about.